Okay, folks, let's get started here. We got a good turnout tonight. I guess that scintillating topic of flotation really charged everybody. Oh, nobody knew what I was talking about. It wasn't listed. Okay. Okay. Well, it made it into the newsletter. So anyway, we'll get onto that later. Got some new folks, so let me introduce myself. I'm Craig Beasley. I'm trying to get out of it, but I'm still the president of the club here. So I tried real hard. We had a board meeting on Saturday, and I misbehaved at my top level, and they wouldn't fire me.
You knew what you were doing.
Yeah, they're old hands at this thing. Okay, so yeah, the way we start each meeting is kind of a combination of social and technical and presentation, and we've always got a heavy Zoom contingent here. People that would rather drink than come to the meeting. So
That's Gatorade I'm drinking.
okay, Russell, I know you're. Yeah, well, he had food poisoning, so this time I believe him. So has anybody been diving since we talked about this last time?
Brian had.
Yes, Martin.
Here you go.
Okay, new gear.
So it was pretty much the normal stuff you see there. We saw, barracudas and sharks and stuff. But the main thing, the draw was eagle rays.
Mhm.
Every day we saw eagle rays.
Oh, wow.
Really?
And one of them, Mary wanted to really get a good, because you see them off in the distance, and she had one that was just coming straight at her.
Wow.
All right.
So she was in heaven.
So I think we're going to have to rethink Cozumel, actually. I mean, it's always been the dramatic wall and the blue water and the big animals, but there's some people making some serious macro stuff there. So, it's in some areas that you just don't think about diving, I guess. It's typical macro stuff, muck stuff. But apparently they got some critters there worth looking at. So
Plan a trip.
yeah, we should do that.
I've always liked it.
Yeah. It's a fun place to go for sure. Okay, anybody else want to?
Here, Betsy.
We went back to Romblon
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
and oh yeah. And Romblon is at the 3B resort is always fabulous, and I hope all of you one day make the effort to go there. The creatures there are so unique. You see things that you just cannot see anywhere else. And every day that you're diving, you're seeing nudies that you have never seen before. And not just one, you see two or three.
On every dive, every
every
dive I
dive.
saw new ones I had never seen before.
Exactly.
And I've been to Romblon before. Oh, well, no. We got some big whopping ones there. Yeah. Yeah. Some of the Malibes get pretty big. Yeah. So,
But it's fairly shallow diving. It's easy, and it's just very productive for a photographer or videographer.
it's hard to explain too. Since you started on, I can't explain it because it's not that far from Anilao. It's in the same kind of general current that comes around Luzon and whips around out into the Pacific. So I don't know what it is about that place, but they're there. So
And then the bad part is that you have to
you can't get there.
you have to take one of the local ferries to get over to Romblon Island, and local ferries are not fun. So
This is an overnight local ferry,
right,
like an
right.
8-hour ferry ride,
right, right.
if it goes.
Other than that, it's not too difficult a trip.
Yeah. Anyway. Oh, sorry, we haven't.
You've been diving. Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to introduce Sandy. She was at the film festival. It's just
Yeah.
first meeting.
Yeah.
And so she has been introduced to diving through me, and she's done 3 or 4 Discover dives. So she's been in Cozumel, Honduras, and Bonaire last week or 2 weeks ago. and she's hooked. So she's going to get certified soon, but we've discovered there's some health things that weren't aware that there were dive problems. So she has to get that checked out before she can get her certification. So
That's a good idea.
yeah.
We had a guy in Romblon. I won't tell you the whole story. This is the most bizarre story I've ever seen in my life. But this last part of it, we'd been diving with him for a couple of days and we had some real issues. But we go up there and he's not around, and it turns out he had passed out at breakfast, fell down with his face in his plate, threw up, and they had to come and get people to carry him out of the resort and take him to the hospital. This is they got they got something there, exactly. And anyway, he came back, and this is talking about getting checked out. He goes, yeah, well, I've been suffering from low blood pressure since last August. And okay, so you're out diving. All right, yeah, good. You don't know. He says, oh, but it's just in the morning, so I'm going to see if they'll let me go ahead and dive in the afternoons here, The guys that run this place are Germans, okay? So they're like, no, you're not going to. Not breaking any rules here. It was just crazy. Anyway, people do stuff like that. So I was about to ask for new folks, so thank you for being it. And we have a new face back here in the back corner. Stand up, tell us who you are, what do you do with cameras and all that kind of stuff.
Kurt Bowman. I've been diving about 17 years, I guess. Just, getting more serious about underwater photography. Started diving after a trip to Cozumel, and my daughter and I did a snuba. That was it. And so I came back, got certified. My daughter was in elementary school. When she was old enough to get junior certified, she got certified. And so I would take a little, point and shoot camera and take pictures of us underwater, and just going from there. So here I am now.
Okay. Could be dangerous for your bank account hanging around with this crap. I burned up about $7,000 worth of gear on this. Camera flooded, 2 monitors broke. I mean, it's just, yeah. One of them's insured and the other one's under warranty. So
I went on Facebook to take a look to check him out. I want to, you gotta check on your new members, right?
all right.
But I understand that you've got the TG5.
Oh, yes, right now. Well, for the last couple of years, I've been using a TG5, and my kid is growing, and I just upgraded to a TG7, and with strobes, video light, tray arms, everything that I have not used yet. So
cool.
April, I'll be using all of that. I'm hoping for a little bit warmer weather before I go, so I can get in my pool.
Well, you can.
This is your inaugural contest tonight.
Last month.
Last month?
Yeah.
Okay, you were in last month
Yes.
as well.
So I learned on this trip that TGs can take some pretty good stuff. It takes some work though. You got to understand the camera. And anyway, that's what I used when I flooded my camera. The guy that ran the place had a TG7 that he would rent to me for $10 a dive. What a bargain, But anyway, I nearly damn near bought that camera, Yeah, and so that was, weren't really doing any wide angle, but my only comment on it was you could get some incredible super macro stuff. You can focus right up to the lens practically. And the price point on those things is great. It's really, really nice, and the quality looked pretty good. I was doing mostly video. The only thing I would say is it's not as forgiving as the bigger sensor is. You had to be really careful with the lighting. It's easy to blow the highlights out, especially on macro stuff, because you're shining a bright light and it's like 2 inches away, So you had to be careful. And the other thing is, it exacerbates that, is that with the small sensors, and this is not TG problem, it's all the cameras like that. They don't get a very high f-stop number. I think the TG7 is f10 maximum, something like that. So you can't really stop the lens down either. So you just have to be careful with your lighting.
Well, the other nice thing about it, of course, is that you don't have to farm out your husband or your wife to earn some money for the
Yeah.
housings. The housings are very reasonable.
Yeah, yeah. No,
One
you-
thing I would say for the small sensors though, really a lot of, I have a fourth micro filters. Is they give you more depth of field for the same thing. So if you're trying to get macro, you know, the smaller sensor, you get a lot more depth of field in the macro.
right.
So a lot of times that stuff is like, it's so hard to get more
Yeah.
than just a tiny bit in focus. You get more in focus.
But you can use F8 instead of F16 and probably be okay.
As far as depth of field, but exposure is what I was,
Oh, I know you.
yeah, the exposure is really, really touchy. You can't, I'm used to, you know, just having the light and the auto thing takes care of it. And here I managed to blow it out a few times. But it's just a learning process. It was really good. She took pity on me and stopped diving the last few days and let me use her camera. So, yeah, I tell you. Well, I think she wanted to read her book too. So it was,
I want to do a plug for HUPS because that's how I got my ticket, is the raffle tickets where I won both certificates.
Oh.
1 year. And so I was able to get the TT6, the housing, the arms, everything except for a light.
wow.
Right. So I'm just saying, I'm doing a plug for HUP. If you want a TG.
We'll talk about Huff in just a minute, but yeah, absolutely. We got some other new folks back here.
I'm
Stand
going
up
to,
and tell us who you are.
Introduce our newest member, Miss Bianca and
Nelson, Bianca Nelson. Hi, good evening, everybody. We've been trying to be part of this for a while now, but we always like finding excuses not to come out, and I'm really glad that we finally got to be here. We started diving in 2008, doing our honeymoon. We decided, okay, we've done it all. Let's give this thing a try. And it was one of those discovery scuba. And we fell in love with it, right? I mean, it's a whole other world down there, and we're just really, really passionate about it. Since then, we've been to many places like Maldives, the Galapagos, Philippines, like 5 times. We love the Philippines.
Mhm.
Taha was the most recent one. Indonesia. Where else, honey? We've been to Palau, just several different places. And yes, Brazil, pretty much all the Caribbeans. I mean, we just it gets expensive, but we don't.
Did you go to Fernando de Noronha in Brazil?
Spend our money on diving.
You went to Fernando?
No, we haven't. To Buzios.
Okay, you didn't go to
Brazil.
Fernando.
I'm Brazilian.
Oh, você fala português,
Falo
né?
português.
Yeah.
Yes, and I think
So
my dad
Marioka.
actually know you. Yes, I think I know him. My dad is Bob Heath. He thinks he knows me from many years ago from the oil and gas industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. I don't know.
They keep turning up, you know?
So anyways, I started getting compliments on my photography and videography and from friends and family. And they're like, well, maybe there's something here. And I just started taking it a little bit more serious. Recently, I built a website. And I started doing this on the side, not just underwater, but other type of photography. And my passion now goes back to the water, though. I just really, really love, I don't know what I love more, video or photo. It's kind of hard to decide. But yes, we love it all. And he's my sidekick. I take the photos and the videos, but he helps me with everything else, like carrying the heavy camera, which yes, we use I use the R5, the mirrorless R5, and the housing is the Icon light, and we have the strobes and the video lights and everything. But he sets everything up for me. I just do the work, and he does the hard. Yeah, he does the work, and I just do the artsy part of it. But I do all the editing.
That's 90%.
That's a lot of work. Yes. Well, yeah. Thank you.
I think that you have a connection to the film festival.
Yes, I've gone twice to watch, and I finally decided to enter. And it's funny because I have forgotten about the deadline, and it was Friday, what's it? That last weekend, right before the 31st. I started working on putting a video together, and the next thing you know, I put it on the side because we had family over, and it was 12:31, and it was like 5 o'clock in the afternoon. They're like, "Don't you need to submit your video?" So I was like cramming and trying to get it in just in time, but I managed to submit it in time.
I think that was the hardest thing, is taking like a 15-minute video and Taking it down
to 5 minutes is really hard. That was the biggest challenge. Where the current takes you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Right,
Yeah,
right.
it was hard to like shrink it, but yes. It was fun.
It's in the festival. You should have gotten a notice that it was accepted.
Yes, yes, I did. So I'm excited. I'm excited. Yes.
Yeah.
But thank you so much.
Didn't you
Yeah,
win
very
something
good.
in the raffle?
I won the video light. Our friend Andre, who's not here today, he won the trip to Anilau for the.
Right, okay.
Yes, he won
Cool.
that last year.
Yeah,
Cool,
so you're
cool.
gonna be up there with our friends. We like them a lot.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna join Andre. We're going with him in April.
That's good.
Good.
That's good.
All right. Well, that's great. Fresh meat, as they say. You haven't heard all my jokes yet. Okay, so well, Frank's here. Frank, you always have something to say, so let's see what officer reports we can get here.
Get close to Craig that way. You can fire his
It's gonna be too close.
microphone.
We don't do this in my country.
Okay, I have several things.
Rose up.
First, myself and Mark and Javon are representatives from HUPS to the Gulf Coast Council, basically the Diving Council, which is a group of clubs that do functions together and support each other. Again, this year, we are offering a scholarship, a $500 scholarship to support people going into colleges. So if you, your spouse, your children, or your grandchildren are in that stage, then you need to pick up a form for them. And it's also listed on the website and the newsletter. I've also, another thing that the council maintains for its clubs is a memorial for those that have passed. And go over, I have brought that and had Mark bring that today. This gives you a little idea what it's like. But those members of our club that have passed away are on this plaque. And each year at our awards luncheon, which normally is in January or February, we go over the names and remember our members. This is what it looks like when we talk about the memorial.
Fairly recent thing, a lot of the dates just show 2000.
Yeah, there was no way to use when all of you.
But it's very timely. I was gonna send you an email, Kathy, and of course we have remembered and put Gary's name on it. Such a fine person to be around and particularly hung in there with us for a long time. Anyway.
But it's the people we miss, it's, the people that have been significant for the clubs. Okay, switching hats as your historian. This is the 44th year for HUPS. And also as your historian, the board reviews every once in a while the key people that have contributed to the club. And we have what is the HUPS Lifetime Achievement Award. And this year, Russell Ramsey has been awarded that award.
Thank you, Frank.
It really signifies it is a Lifetime Achievement Award. For example, I think Russell had 4 years as president, about 10 plus years on the board, 30 years as a member. I say a very, very big contributor, but that award is available to those that significantly contribute. And that normally means that you've been on the board, officers, you're working behind the scenes. But it also means that even as an individual, you eventually qualify for consideration. Thank you.
I've been thinking about an amendment to our constitutional bylaws on this, in that, what motivation does Russell have to do anything else, So I think what we do when we get lifetime achievement like that, the whole bloody thing resets, Russell. So you're back to like a new member now. And in fact, you can be president again.
Yeah, he's looking
I
for a
did it for 4
replacement,
years.
Russell.
I just think somebody else needs to share in the joy. Anyway, congratulations and thanks, Russell. You've done an awful lot.
Thank you.
Lead trip with people over to BVI pretty soon. So, speaking of trips, what's new on the trip front? Anything to discuss?
Now we got for the BVI, there's the 10 going, everybody's paid up. I'll send out another informational letter in the next probably 30 days. Make sure everybody's gotten their waivers in. There'll also be a waiver from BVI. There's also now that you've got to have a visa to get in there, but it's an electronic visa, kind of like what they got going to the UK now. 3 days, but you can't even apply for it until 3 days before you're going. And I'll let everybody know about that. Other than that, everybody's paid up and we're ready to go.
Okay. And our new trip coordinator, Trish, is working hard to put out a survey to get club members to say what they'd like to do on club trips and get a little bit of feedback. And so we've got a little bit of life. We're breathing back into the program again. We've taken trips in the last few years, but it's been more of an ad hoc thing. And we want to, somebody has an idea and we just go do it. But this will involve everybody a little bit more. So looking forward to that. And Trish, do you have anything else to say about it?
Mainly just please, when the survey gets to you, please be sure to fill it out. It's going to be, fine. I can get
Okay.
close. Look, he doesn't mind.
Okay, Ixnay on the iPhone.
So essentially, when the survey comes out, it's going to be an initial survey. So it's very simple, trying to get a feel for what each member has enjoyed in the past with HUPS trips, destinations they would like to go to. We do want to reestablish at least a couple of trips per year. We've been batting around one that's pretty far-fetched and one that's closer in, like Caribbean. Also looking for trip leaders. So anyone who is willing to even consider it, we're putting together a really nice guideline for new trip leaders. And of course, you can always come to me and others within the organization to help you with it, to take some of the work off of you and make it stress-free.
I thought you just filled out the spreadsheet and it was done. I think that was.
Well, yeah, and I have great spreadsheets to help every trip leader to get the information that's needed, and it'll help you create a brochure and everything.
Okay, so yeah, it's not a lot of work. The finances on a club trip are handled through the treasurer, so it's something anybody could do. Take us to your favorite place is what I would say. So, very good. One other little point of order, though, I realized again, my godfather, fairy godmother, whatever Frank is to me, I don't know. Pointed out that we should make Trish a board member because she's the trip leader, and we want her to have a vote. So, do I hear a motion to make?
Motion.
All right, all right. All in favor to put her on the board?
Aye.
Put it in the newsletter. This is done deal. Don't give her a chance to say no. What are you doing? Quiet. Okay, let's see. Gadget of the month. Did anybody bring their favorite gadget? I've got a whole 2 bags full of them, so we don't really need a gadget of the month here. But
Betsy, what about that gadget to your left there?
sorry, what's that? Oh, Betsy, that's not a gadget. That's a.
Here.
Someone like, well, let Kathy explain. Let her explain. This. She does this donation. This is going into the Hub and Rock.
Can't hear anything.
All right, here it is.
Yeah.
Okay. I will demonstrate it. Quite heavy, quite dangerous.
Place your 3.5-pound weight with this thing.
I thought it was a sexual device that provided a device that provided an option if things should go badly. He's got an option in case things go badly. Cuts on both sides.
15. So, he was talking about it and I said, oh, I'd like to see it. So he brought it out and he didn't have the, he said, I don't have the strap. Well, after I thought about it, I went, if you would donate that. And so I asked him and he said yes, and then he went and found this also. So, anyway, there were, I don't know how many were made. I sent you.
Is this for the raffle? Is this,
Yeah.
oh my God.
This is pretty cool, you know, if you win it in the raffle, you can probably get visited by the American Pickers and they'll offer you $500 for it.
Yeah, you can sell it, but he wanted some.
That's outstanding. I'm telling you.
But it,
Can you imagine going underwater?
it was all apart.
We need a picture with a story holding it.
Makeup handle.
I mean, what I want is a bag of popcorn and a beer and that thing, and I'm gonna sit down and watch Mike Nelson, you know? Got people's air hoses and stuff, you know? Okay, so I think we've wasted enough time, okay? So our newly minted vice president is not here. I heard Justin had a fender bender and is having his car towed or something, so
Yeah, that's what I heard.
I guess I turn it over to our former vice president.
Do you have some gadgets?
We'll see what's in the bag. Yeah. Do you want to say anything or just?
No.
Okay, well, I'm the program tonight too, so
Yeah, one of the two. You want to introduce him?
No.
No, you don't. Okay, I'll introduce him. All right, so I've known Craig a few times, well, sometimes. And he, of course, and Betsy and I and a bunch of other people have been diving all over the world. The Philippines for sure, and Indonesia. I guess we've been to Red Sea, a lot of different places. It's always fun to go with them. They make sure that they have some wine on board. And, one of the most important aspects of diving with them.
rum will do. Gin and tonic will do. We're not wine snobs.
But Craig has stepped up to be our March presenter on a topic that I think that we all need to know something about, and it's about flotation. It's not something you look for in your toilet or anything, but flotation here. And so I'm going to turn it over to Craig.
Okay, well, this is really going to be a walk through history. So I don't know if your experience is similar to mine. We'll find out. But this is interactive. So anytime, raise your hand, say what you want. I started thinking about this because I realized, how complicated the whole thing is. And I hadn't really, underwater photography now. I hadn't really even thought about flotation. So when I first found out about it, was about 20 years ago, and I was going to go buy my first camera. So I'm talking to some guy, probably Reef Photo or something like that. And I've got some small, point and shoot with manual settings, I guess would be how I'd characterize it. And I was getting a housing and a strobe and everything. So I was I had a good ticket written up and I thought I was done. And so he goes, no, let's talk about flotation for this. And I went, oh, what? Flotation? Yeah. So, I had to add some more money onto it and it was kind of a surprise to me. But back then, things were pretty simple, and that means you didn't have a lot of choices. So, go into my bag of tricks and show you what we had back around, the mid 2000s. There was really only one game in town as far as I know back then, and it was the ultralight guys. Maybe there was some others, but I didn't know about them. And these guys are still around, live and kicking. They're the ones that came up, I guess, with these butterfly clamps. But they had some innovations going back then too, which I'll mention. And I fell for it, of course, being a technology freak. That just took me for everything I had, So they have these these floats, and this was what was the standard thing, and you can still buy them today. And these are the original from 20 years ago, so you can obviously mistreat them and do all kinds of stuff. They are indestructible. STIX, yeah. And they're made, back then they were made for this ultralight system, and they were trying to keep things light. You know, these were the arms. You had several of these maybe for your strobes and stuff. It's pretty cool. You put the thing in here, get it where you want it. It has another little insert here that goes in to hold it in place. Let's see if I can actually do this. Oh, help to put it on the right side here. So you do that, set it where you want on the arm, you're all get it strapped into your housing and everything. But they had some fancier stuff, and I bid on that too. So they had, I don't know if they make these anymore, but somebody had the idea of making a solid arm, but have it be gas filled, so that this would actually provide flotation, you know. So I said, yeah, give me one of those. And then I tried to use it with these sticks things that I had also bought. I found out they weren't engineered to use the floats that you had. So this is the first surprise that I had. I was like, oh, I bet I can fix that, you know, get a drill out something, you know, and saw or something. But I didn't do that. I just used this separately and had the little windowed one here on the top of it. So I had one strobe, and this was enough. One arm and a second arm and one strobe, and I was all good. Now, of course, life changes, right? And that's what this talk is all about. Now, well, they had some other innovations back then, and these are around today too. A collar, if you have a big, heavy port on the front, you can strap a collar. The same kind of floats on there. But of course, that little system didn't stay the same. And I started, you know, tacking other stuff on it. So I got a little tree. I didn't bring it, but I got a bunch of wet lenses because I wanted to do a fisheye, and I wanted to do wide angle, and I wanted to do macro. So they were sitting there strapped onto the side of the camera. But guess what? It didn't float anymore because I added all this weight to it. So I began to realize this is not a static problem. They can tell you right off the shelf today. You'll go on Backscatter, one of these things, and maybe this is what you did with your TG7. I saw one there at Blue Water. They had it all set up with arms and strobes and a tray and everything and floats on it, and they'd gotten a $450 camera up to $2,000 package with all the extra stuff they added onto it. So that's the kind of stuff that happens, right? So you start adding all kinds of stuff, like, for example, a tripod. Now, you know, I don't know about this one. The tripod could be slightly negative, I guess, but there's air spaces in there, so it's not too bad.
Well, the airspaces fill up after a short period of time down underneath.
So now you can mathematically try to figure this out, you know. On all of these things that you're going to buy, like the strobe light, it'll tell you how much it weighs in air, and it'll tell you how much it weighs underwater. So that gives you like how much you have to compensate for. So you should be able to calculate like how much, you know, should I buy? And that's what the guys in the stores do. They just say, oh, well, this thing, you got so many floats here. It doesn't matter too much how accurate you are with that. But then if you're married and you got two systems and other stuff happens too, like you decide, well, I want to do macro even better. So you start adding just chunks of iron and glass onto your housing. And pretty soon you get out of the realm of being able to really sort of calculate it. So what I began to do at that time was realized that it was not something that I could or wanted to calculate. So I got a whole bunch of crap, you know, and we'd put some on there and take it out to the pool. And I would, you know, have this strap and I'm holding the thing and going, well, that kind of looks like it's floating, but I don't know. This is not, you know, underwater. So what I discovered and what I would recommend to you, if I can find it here. I got too fancy with my stuff here. All right, you rascal. This is the other problem. We get all this stuff is finding it. Oh, by the way, you can hand out HUP cards while I'm looking for this last bit here. Anyway, it gets a lot more difficult because again, maybe your better half decides after talking with Tom Collier that what she really needs is another big chunk of metal that just lets you look through the thing in magnification. So this little thing, yeah, is solid metal. So you add it on there, you start to get the need for all kinds of stuff. So like this, and these things come in all kinds of sizes and shapes, and you can buy them. The thing was back then, there weren't many choices, so these things were extremely expensive. Now the Chinese are in the game, and you can go on and buy carbon fiber things that are pretty reasonable, I think, today. But what I want to get out of here, there's another chunk of iron that you can add on to it. Now that thing could not have disappeared because I just had it in my hand. Oh, well, it'll turn up, as my mother used to say. What it is a little luggage scale that you can, hook your camera onto, and that way you can get it down in the water and get the whole thing under the water, and it'll have a readout as to how much the camera then weighs underwater. You have to be real careful because those things aren't waterproof either, so you have to watch it carefully. And that's really handy. But then the question is, well, how much is heavy? In fact, you stop and think and say, well, wait a minute, what is my goal in this thing anyway? Have you ever asked yourself? I've heard this question asked a few times, and the first answer I remember was in a HUPS meeting, and I don't remember how the subject came up, but Ken Konezek was here, and he must have been talking about something, and he said, well, of course, I want my somebody said, yeah, I like to have mine just almost completely neutral and, maybe even a little bit positively buoyant so that if I lose it or something, it'll float to the surface. That's one of the theories. Ken said, no, I want mine heavy because I'll be able to set it down in one place and it'll stay there while I save your life. And then I can come back and get it later. And and I just heard the question come up again on a liveaboard over in Rajampot. And so we were talking with a few of the people, and Dustin Adamson, who some of you know is a great photographer, and he's saying something about my rig. And I said, yeah, I like it heavy, He said, well, I do too for macro, but not for wide angle. So I've been puzzling about that one a little bit because he was going out with a tripod for wide angle too. So I didn't quite understand why he, maybe because when he was doing the wide angle, he had this gigantic new lens thing from from backscatter. This thing weighed at least 40 pounds. It was this big around. And so maybe that's why he tries to, lighten the thing up, because you have to swim with this stuff too, which is the other constraint. So I began to realize that I can play this thing with the parts and all that, but maybe there's something a little more systematic, and especially when you start trying to do things like be all things underwater. And so you might find yourself with a port like this if you have one of the new macro lenses. So you get this sucker, and of course there's a lens that goes inside that. So I welcome you to try to figure out whether this is going to float more or is it going to to make your rig sink. The only thing you can do is put it on there and see what happens, So and that gets really tricky. So the lights get smaller. Like, what if you just want to use this, instead of a big strobe or something like that? So when you go off and you're trying to be able to do wide angle and macro and super macro and everything like that, you end up having to have a lot of flexibility. So that moves me to my second bag here. So pretty early on, I thought it might be a good idea to get some of the flotation out, in a different place. And so Lockline was getting some traction. They were putting them on little trays, and so I discovered that I could actually make my own flotation if I did a little bit of homework and worked on it a little bit. So this has one of the original ultralight floats on the bottom of it. And then these are homemade jobs. And I'll talk a little bit about that. But the nice thing is actually, if you had a heavy light, you might put this one out on the end so that the float is up near where the weight is. Because what you find in these things, and Martin mentioned this, and so thanks, I don't want to forget it, is that it's not just about whether it floats or not. It's the rotational aspect of it, because you can have it where it's almost neutrally buoyant, but you got a really heavy piece on one side, it will rotate and have that, down on the bottom and the lighter stuff on the top. So you can find yourself underwater fighting it all the time, trying to keep it level or something. So there's a lot more science that could be done on this, actually. I think it's a pretty interesting topic to try to figure out. First thing is what I make these things out of, Well, you can imagine ultralight doesn't tell you what this stuff is. And they don't make it themselves. They didn't invent it. So I did a little sleuthing around. You go to a place like Scuba Board or one of these things, Wet Pixels, people are talking about these things. Turns out this stuff is PVC. There's several things that you could use, actually, but PVC foam is the one that I had quoted to me. And the natural use for this stuff, PVC foam, is for airplane parts and boats as well. So they use this like for the structural components in them. It's very, very strong.
What makes them good is they're all closed cell.
Closed cell, yeah. I mean, you can make a real mistake and think you'd get one of your noodles out of your pool or something like that. And of course, down at depth, it will get compressed and it won't expand again. So that's always a surprise to people. But this stuff is not cheap either. A board like this probably is $25 or something like that. So, and it's not all that easy to work with, but it does work. These things are more than 10 years old. And although I've had fits and starts at trying to paint them, I think I've got a better paint for it now, and it's under testing. So, but it fits in very nicely with some other stuff that I've run across recently. And this is really new because with all the people now offering flotation, there's a lot of innovation going into it. If you look around on the, especially some of the Chinese websites, they've got all kinds of stuff aimed in this direction. And the first thing I discovered is in response to carrying this little baby around, which I guarantee you is not that light in water because it's full of a battery here. So yeah, you got the little problem. Well, what do I do when I strap this on? And before I just had a little light or a strobe and all that. Well, I just had to grin and bear it for a while. And then I discovered just recently, just before I went off on a trip, that they're actually making flotation for individual devices now. So this you can buy, and it just pops on to there, strap it down. There's a couple of screws back here that hold it in. And now you have the fact that this piece itself is now neutrally buoyant. So I can add it to my rig without it changing the flotation that I have. Yeah, can you guys see that? And believe it or not, they don't charge you that much for these. They're like $40 or something like that. I would have paid them $500.
You're spending an extra $200 for an extra suitcase.
Well, yeah, you do. It's just, I mean, before that, I found a little trick though, and I actually met the guy that owns this, Doug, that owns Kraken, and suggested this to him, and he's thinking about it. But this light has this gigantic battery so this will burn like an hour, 90 minutes at its full power or something like that. So you can use it all day. But I don't ever use that much. I take it along and use it a little bit, but not on a lot of things, because, this is good for some kind of subjects, but others, it doesn't work so well. So then I found out something really interesting that I'll show you here. If I can get this thing off. This is a detail about Kraken lights, which is just luck. This is the battery for the thing. It's just a bunch of 18650s that they bundled together, so you have to pay them a lot of money for it. And then I realized that Betsy had a smaller version of this light, a 10,000 lumen version, and it uses this battery. And I said, you know what? I might not be the smartest guy, but you know what? I think these look pretty close to the same, and pretty much like half, right? And it is, it's just exactly half the batteries in there. So the voltage is the same. So I get out my little hacksaw, get myself a little tube like this, pop it in the bottom, because there's no contacts in the bottom. All the contacts are on the top face. You put it in there, and now this light has more flotation than it did before. So that was what I actually did very seldom did I carry it with the big battery, because it was just really heavy. But now that I've got a float for it, so I mean, that's a new thing in flotation, actually, to think of the individual components that you have and to try to compensate for them.
So that float is made by Kraken also?
Yeah, they do. But some of the Chinese companies, I think he's been buying this stuff from a little company called WeFine. I mean, the ring light that he brought out was brought out by WeFine to start with. And so if you go on WeFine's site, they have some lights that look suspiciously like this one. And they have some flotation that looks different from his. So, this is a different material, though. It's, we'll see how it holds up. Any questions so far?
What do you typically like? A little bit heavy?
Well, this is how I got in so much trouble, actually. I'm getting to it. Just hang on. Let me protect my batteries here. I've ruined enough equipment recently, so let me.
Also depends on the current.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've been very disappointed actually in going to super macro sometimes, because you get so much magnification that you can't stand any movement on your camera at all. Not even so. If you're in a heavy current and the current's about to blow your camera over, you just put one finger down on top of the tripod, and that's enough. Just the shaking that you have in your, it's not noticeable to you, but when you magnify it so much, it becomes noticeable. So yeah, if it's a heavy current, you probably want to, but it's a more complicated question than that, because when you're diving, there's two parts to the system. There's you and there's the camera, but you should be connected by your hands. And so it's not just how the camera's weighted, because you can control some of that by your own flotation. And so, I played around with that idea a little bit. I'll talk a little bit about that in the end. But
I was going to ask about wrist flotation to help.
yeah, so people are starting to do that. Like they've got ankle floats and ankle weights for people that float up, people that, want their feet to float, stay off the reef. Definitely. I kind of hit the wall because, at first it's like, okay, I'll just put this big honking light and I'll just tough it out, manly kind of solution, Hell, it ain't that heavy, you know. I learned that it can be. So the latest thing was to strap one of these things on. And
Boy, you got one.
yeah, well, it's
Your bank probably still owns it.
this one's RIP, I think. So yeah, and it damaged the tendons in my wrists actually trying to keep this thing. It wasn't so much holding it in the water, but you know, when I wanted to hold it up. So that was a surprise. And so then I thought back to, sorry? Oh, it's a video monitor. So and the other thing about this that's really punishing is that it's got a big honking heavy clamp as well. So this thing adds a half a pound. In case you're interested, I'll
Is that the Nauticam?
no, this is a cheap Chinese. I'll pass some of these around. These are pieces of that flotation that I've cut up, and you can see how lightweight it is. Yeah,
Right
so
on top.
you can mount it either way. Some the guys at Backscatter want to tell you to put it up, you know, in your window here above the camera, and I found that to be not what I liked. I like to have it mounted, turned the other way around, so it's like hanging upside down, back like in front of where my window would be on my camera.
So you can't see the controls.
That's the downside to it, but every good photographer should know those buttons by. It's actually better on the torque because it's lower down, and when you have it high up like this, it tends to pull the whole rig over. Yeah.
I have my anglerfish and I put it up on top, and the disconnect that I have with it is that what you're seeing in the monitor and where the camera is pointing is quite different.
Yeah, it is. That's why we liked it back here.
Well, I understand that. I'm still not familiar enough with my camera, my housing to.
But you should know those buttons by now, Dennis. You should be. How do you do night dives if you don't know where your buttons are? Huh? A delay on the monitor? No. It's no delay. It's an HDMI. You know, these things are notorious though. These HDMI cables are not good. So that's why we have two broken ones. This one's about to go back. Oh yeah, here's the thing I was talking about, the little scale. Yes, sir.
That fresh water. Have you compensate with salt water?
Yeah, well, I don't dive in fresh water, so I. Well, I'm obviously I'm testing it in fresh water, and so you know salt water is denser, so I know that it's going to float more in the salt water than it would in the fresh water. So I realize if I have it completely neutral in fresh water, then it's going to be floating in salt water. So,
floater.
yeah, but you could find some formula. But I'm just trying to. Am I 4 pounds overweight or am I 1 pound? I think 1 or 2 pounds is about right. Something like a kilo. So I came back and I said, you know, maybe I could do something here. So I got another sheet of this stuff. It just so happens that they have an extra screw in the back for in case you want to mount the ball on the back side of the monitor. Yeah,
Protected against the camera.
and yeah.
It's impressive.
Anyway, it turns out just by sheer luck that I did a little bit of calculation, but I thought it would be close. This on the back makes this whole thing almost neutral underwater. So it's just still slightly. Yeah, I cut it out of the sheet, and yeah, it's not as pretty as the stick stuff, but you know, it's yeah, you can't buy it, so you know.
It's an interesting thought. I hadn't thought about mine, but well, I have a back, the back of my monitor is a lot different than yours. I have to get into the battery compartment, which is right off the back. Do you have that problem?
No, the battery compartment here is a little tube on the back, so you can unscrew.
Yeah, that's not the same as mine for sure. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure what yours looks like, but probably you could figure out. Well, this just comes off easily with a
Yeah, I could probably
little,
figure
little
something out.
screwdriver. I mean, if you're
Or
carrying
just-
batteries, you're going to be carrying a dry bag and, you know, have a little Phillips head or something like that that you can just pop this off and change the battery and put it back on. So, but they're all different. The monitor that she got is a Wi-Fi, and it's totally different. It has two little things that come out like that screw into the ball head, and so I made it for that as well. Though you can just custom make it a little piece that kind of sits over it. So anyway, it's a new trend and something maybe you want to think about because you can get a lot more flexibility that way. You can go for wide angle and macro and everything, and just makes changing your gear over kind of no think. And
That's the thing that I've noticed, that I can get it all perfect for stills, and then I put my video lights on and everything's off.
bingo,
Join the crowd.
firecracking. Although I'm sure other light makers are going to start doing that too.
Well, it's the same thing, you go from macro to a big honking wide angle ports, and all of a sudden your rig is a lot lighter than it was before.
That was the thing I was gonna say, is I have one lens that's pretty long and it has an 8-inch dome on the end of it. It's way out there, and but it doesn't pull down, it pulls up.
Yeah, because
So
it floats.
you're constantly looking at the sky and you gotta hold it down. But Icolite makes a little device that you screw on the bottom of the camera. You put a weight there and you can actually adjust it underwater. Get the torque exactly the way you
Yeah.
want it.
Yeah. So there's one other thing I was going to talk about real quick here at the end. That's an undeveloped idea, but something that gets into the whole idea of the torque, because we all know that stability is one of the key things. If there's one comment that our judges make in the HUF, it'll kill a film, is like if it's too shaky and you just can't watch it, And we have stability in the cameras now, and we have it in software and all that. But my experience with all of that stuff, and I've given talks on it, is that if you're pretty darn stable to begin with, then that stuff is going to make it look good. But it cannot. Well, there's some things that happen there. If you're moving around, if you're jiggling around, your autofocus can't work properly either, because it works on a correlation, and it's looking for peak and sharpness in the images. And if your image is moving around, then it gives you a blurry focus point. It can't really. I noticed this when I got some really super macro stuff, and I realized that I'm sitting there and this thing does not look sharp. And then when I finally get everything all quiet and this tripod in, and you're sitting there watching it, and the image sharpens up as you watch it. It's kind of interesting to see that happen. It brings it home to you that when you're doing this with your camera, it's having trouble focusing too. It's not just the shakiness that you're getting. So I began to think about, how do they solve this on land? And has anybody seen what they call a walk-around stick or something like that for cameras? Yeah. Yeah, kind of like a monopod. It's just, yeah, they call it a walking stick or something. No, it's not a mono, because you don't set it down. It has a handle. The camera goes on here, and it's just a long monopole that has a weight on it.
Does it have a weight, or does it actually have a gyroscope?
There's gyroscopes, but there's one that's just a mechanical, just a weight.
Just a weight?
Yeah.
Okay.
And they have other stuff where the guy can strap it on for a really heavy rig, he can strap it around his body and steady cam or something. Yeah, but if you want to find it, go look for walking stick, and Google will help you on that. But that's a simple principle, that you take the weight. If it was up next to the bottom of the camera, you would get no stability out of it at all. But you put it on a long distance away, that R value, comes into play with the torque. It resists any movements that you would make. It's called inertia, right? So I thought, well, that's great. Now, how do I make that work underwater, you know? And I mean, there's ways of doing it. It doesn't have to be a weight. And underwater, you could do it with a float, for example. You could put a little balloon that floated up about 10 feet above you. And you want the whole thing to be neutrally buoyant so that you don't float away, but it's exerting great force on the camera, so you're not going to be able to move it around much. However, in the water and a string or whatever you have on it, that's only one dimensional. It's not like on land where you have a rigid pole which resists movement in any direction. So I was fooling around with this in Allure a couple of years ago, and so here's what I did. I said, well, the balloon thing is the physics work, but practically speaking, you're not going to do that underwater. It's going, you know, it's going to carry me away. So I had a really good guide, and she was reading her book in the afternoon, so I decided to give it a try. Doing a lot of wall diving, which is hell for video, you know, unless you just want to stand back and take pictures of the wall, you know, which some of that's good. But so I came up with this idea of carrying an extra weight that I would suspend beneath the camera. So put the weight like the walk around stick, but you know, underwater you could do that. So I took a 1 kilo and I took a 2 kilo weight, and I rigged up a a catenary, or just a string between the two handles of the housing, and then hung the weight in it. And my dive master, he was really into this. Is I gave him the weight and the string. Said, "You hold that and give it to me when I ask you for it." So when I did that, I'm starting to thread it through there, and he grabs it and he tries to put the string through and make a knot in it, you know, like you do on a weight belt. I said, no, I don't want that. I want it to be able to slide. So anyway, it was interesting. It gave you some resistance, and of course you have the whole system now, so you have to put more air in your BC, and again you're getting pulled on your hands, but it was worth a try. I found some places where I was able to get very good steady film right up on a wall of some fire gobies, 2 fire gobies, and I couldn't get over to the edge of the wall and put my tripod down because they'd split, you know. So what I did is I hung in the water column with the weight, you know, below me like that, and got some pretty good steady photos and video in this case. And so then I said, well, okay, now I got some, let me go try. So I got a little bit closer to them. I couldn't get right up to where they were, but there was a ledge below it. So I let the string out a little bit, and I let the weight fall to the sand on the little ledge. And then now I had a 2 kilo anchor sitting there, so I could, you know, have resistance against the camera, and it helped steady it in that way as well. So I'm just relating this, you know, because I think it wasn't good enough that I'm motivated to go do that all the time. For one thing is, have you ever tried to wind a string underwater? Anybody ever tried that? Don't. It doesn't behave like it does on land. The string is going all over the place. You know, you're trying to wind it up. So that's the latest thing on it. I think if you made it where it was easily implemented underwater, if I did that, I might want to try it some more and see if it really was a help. It still has the same problem as I mentioned in comparing to the land version. It's just a one-dimensional pull on you, but one dimension's better than none. So
Could you do a similar system only utilizing like carabiners or snap hooks?
yeah, that's exactly, and probably you might want a little chain or something instead of the string. Yeah, you could have it built onto the housing. Yeah, yeah, I would have it be made out of metal, and because then you could wind it up easily, and you know.
Or a monopod that was long enough to stick in the sand. Like you said, you drop the weight there, could you just put a monopod on that sand? Hold it?
Monopods work well underwater. Tripod works better.
I'm saying if you don't have space like
Yeah, it's not really a matter of space. It's just any place to anchor something to. Very seldom on a wall, you know, are you able to do that. I mean, some places you can get like one little leg down on something and then another one on the side, and you can kind of, use your pointer stick as another anchor or something. But just in general, you know, and this is for macro. I mean, if it was, just shooting, fish schools or something, I don't mind hand holding for that. But yeah, I mean,
I have a comment and question possibly. How many people here have tried to do over under shots? Yeah. So we have people who've done it. How easy is that?
it's terrible.
Yeah.
Or if
Well,
you're
my-
if you're shallow and you're trying to lift your rig to actually get it over under, you've got a lot of that stuff out of the water now and it's not floating anymore. So
Yeah, that's exactly been my problem before. I'm neutral I can neutralize myself regardless of how much weight I have. If I have a positive camera and system, rig is positive, then I go up to the surface and I try to raise it up above it. My flotation gets all kind of screwed up, and then I go down and my camera goes up, but I can't see what I'm doing. Now, if you have a neutrally buoyant system, it's a lot easier to do that. Yes, absolutely. Get your weight as low in the water. You don't want any weight above the water if you can possibly avoid it.
yeah, well, you could absolutely. I mean, you could envision getting some weights like this, or some floats like this, just make them and rotate them down. But then you have the problem of it wanting to flip up. But we did have an opportunity to sort of an ideal situation, and you want to be negatively weighted on this one. There was a shore dive at this last place we went in Raja Ampat, and at the dive dock, everybody had a blue crate, So I thought, I'll wait till we go out diving and I get a couple of blue crates out there, put them on the sand, and then put my tripod on the camera. If I can get it at the right depth, then I don't have to hold the camera and it's on a tripod. And yeah, I forgot about waves. It doesn't take much of a wave to knock you off of the things. So I don't know how they get all these great shots of these over under things. Mm.
I mean, the National Geographic guys and stuff, that's what they're doing.
They're putting flotation, yeah.
They have like plans still.
Yeah. I was actually able to get some exposures that if it had been a good enough setting, it wasn't, the coral I was shooting into wasn't all that spectacular. So
My experience
the
was
crate worked really well.
you get up close to the surface, you hold it up so your dome is halfway in there, and you take as many shots as you can before you're all screwed up. You hope.
That's fun.
Now for video, forget it. You just have to have it set up properly.
I was going for over under video.
Yeah.
That's what I was trying to do. And I got some. To be honest, I haven't really looked at it. Maybe there's something good there. But like I said, the coral underneath there was coral, but it wasn't anything to write home about.
6 years ago, it may have been the first or second HUPS. There was some guy in Cozumel. I just happened to stumble across some of his videos on YouTube. And I sent him an email and he ended up submitting, I think it's a French guy, but he was living in Cozumel and he was teaching underwater video classes. But he had one interesting video where he had mounted something on the hot shoe on an arm ball joint, and it was like a 4-inch piece of PVC. And he could move it in different orientations to balance his rig.
Huh.
And I sent you a link. It was in the newsletter, but I don't remember what year it was. So I may have to try to look for it again. But it was a really good idea. I mean, it seemed to work really well. I never
For the
tried it.
torque part of it, then he'd move it to keep it from rotating. Yeah.
You could just reposition it slightly, and it was, maybe 8-inch piece of 4-inch PVC. So there was a lot of buoyancy there.
Sure. Yeah. Any,
Mike's got a question here. Go. You're doing a lot of,
Yeah, question and a comment. First of all, for the homemade flotation devices, the PVC, is that the same stuff as the marine foam you would find in buoys? Or like, the ones that are holding up the ropes and like swimming lanes and
those are
pool.
made from different things. Sometimes it's this stuff that then is covered with a rubber cover, for example. Yeah, I couldn't find anything just off the shelf. This was as close as I could get. It's kind of tough because a lot of this stuff is coming from factories in China, and it was really hard to know what the material actually was. I think there are other materials available now, but this is the one I used originally and I knew it worked, so I just went back to those guys. It's not particularly easy to work with. You need a hacksaw to cut it, and a pretty good drill to drill through it. So, and if you're going to do these things, I did it with a hole saw. I had this drill that had a set of hole saws in it, and this outer one was one of the large ones. And the way this thing worked, you could mount two different hole saws in the same bit, and so I just drill straight through there. That's where these little suckers came from, the donut holes. This was a 1-inch hole saw inside of a larger hole saw. It just happened to fit the lock line size.
And also concerning over under video, a few years ago when I bought my GoPro, I just looked around on Amazon for all sorts of accessories, and some aftermarket place they make this sort of like mini dome you can kind of mount on your GoPro and then hold your to give you the clearance to do over with your GoPro.
Oh, really?
yeah, otherwise it's hard to get the GoPro to function over and under.
So that's pretty much what I had. Any questions, comments, or?
Interesting.
I got a camera set up, and so I said I'm going to get flotation, and I'll just say it was a game changer. It made it so much easier because I used to take pictures and have to rest my arm.
Yeah.
But on top of that, speaking of resting arms, my first dive trip I did with a 7mm wetsuit, trying to hold the camera up to your eye for an extended period, all that neoprene here, it was damn near impossible. You get so tired. So I took my wetsuit and had it modified, took out a little football shaped piece inside of my elbows. So now my 7mm suit is pre-bent kind of. I have to push it out to straighten it. But I'm telling you, it makes it so much easier. So if you have a thicker wetsuit, like a 5 or 7mm, and you're struggling with that some, take a little chunk out there.
Okay,
and,
you guys thought I was
it's
crazy.
so easy to hold the camera up.
Oh, Brian, you got your hand up, buddy. What's going on? Oh, no, it's Martin's mouse.
How did he do that? Let me talk just a little bit about flotation and video and my particular thing. This I use the rigid legs as opposed to the goofball legs that I think Betsy likes, which it's just a matter of preference. The Jobo is a good, very convenient, and it works fine. I prefer to have mine just as a 3-point off of the 2 front, 1 rear. But I also like to have my camera system maybe 2-3 pounds heavy. I can always go neutrally buoyant in the water. But when I put it down, I don't want to have to put my hand on top of my system to be able to keep it down. I don't want it floating away. And unfortunately, a lot of the places that we go, there is current. And the more neutrally buoyant that you have your system, the more you have to be constantly attending your system to keep it from floating away or floating over or just getting a lot of focus problems because it's moving around a little bit. So I typically like it because I don't mind with my rig setting it down, getting it set up even on super macro. And once I've got focus lock, set it on and just watch back and watch my monitor.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
So and it's a personal preference.
no, it's the same. It's what we do.
But now on the other hand, you know, if you're doing nothing but wide angle, yeah, go neutral. I think it makes a lot of sense. But then you've got to be, yeah, I know. Side by side usually. Unfortunately. For you, unfortunately for you. Oh, that's another subject we'll talk about.
Just buoyancy underwater, like putting gear in.
They're, well, you know, there's a tank, there's a system that they're trying to sell everybody, the Avalo system. And for your camera. Ooh, well,
Same idea, but something.
yeah.
Well, you know, we were looking for new revenue streams for HUPS.
Yes.
Yeah, on several trips, I've been over the Pacific. I've seen people from Europe with arms that they would inflate it. And then when they got in the water, they had a valve that they could turn to let a little air out to adjust it the way they wanted it. But I've never seen them marketed in the United States.
I haven't seen that. Yeah.
And well, it was, you know, like like the Enon that he's got there, except it had a valve up on the top of it. And it was a little narrower on that, but it was about so long. And the question I always thought was, you know, well, how do you pump it up when you get back on land?
Right. Well,
And
that's,
I don't know whether they would just open it up and let it fill to land pressure and then close it off. And when you take it in the water, you can let some of it out. Yeah. But I mean, that's like those things they used to have that you could put water in and then it would keep your throat from going through your regulator from drying out. They didn't work very long.
yeah. Well, you know, that stuff is complicated. The Avalo system, you know, doesn't work that way. The Avalo system does sort of the opposite thing, which is it fills your tank with water.
Okay.
So you have air in the tank, but the air is inside of a bladder, kind of a thick bladder that can withstand a lot of pressure. And then they have a pump that pumps seawater into the tank that compresses the air up into you know, an air pocket in the top of it. Now, there's no movement in the water that's being displaced by the tank. So what happens is it adds weight into the tank that makes you heavier. But that one, you know, you can go each direction. You can let the water out. You can pump it in, pump it out. If you're just turning a valve, I'm not sure how that works because this is rigid. So suppose I had air in here. Now what I'd have to do is, again, let water into this thing. So air would come out and water would go into it, which would make the whole thing heavier. But you couldn't get it back out unless you had a pump system like they had. So,
Anything that you do like that has got to be a closed system because as you go up and down, the volume is going to be changing drastically because of pressure.
right. So
I haven't seen any of them recently.
yeah, I don't know how that would work. I mean,
So it probably didn't work very well.
to me, that's putting kind of a fine point on it, really. If you're a pound or two, and you know, that's not gonna bother you too much one way or the other, unless it's too light. And I've never run into that, so you know. Okay, well, let's see. photo contest, and I didn't give you a chance to talk about the HUF. So while he's bringing the photo contest up, why don't you stand up and tell them where we are? Oh, here. Oh,
Okay, well, we're at the point with the HUF where we have let all the people who submitted films know whether their films have been selected or not selected for the shows. And we're putting it together. We've got 8 categories of films this year, which is we've never had 8 different categories, but we've got the usual ones, but we also have a short video category this year, which we haven't had for 5 years ago. I think we had one, and we haven't had one since. But I'd like to give you guys some of the cards to give out to your friends. So just to let them know when it is.
No.
Oh, okay, okay. So
Just take a couple. You know, when you tell people about this thing, they go, "Oh, I want to come." You know, so it's nice to have a card to just
yeah,
put in their
give them the
hand.
cards so that they have the dates and the different activities that we do during the HUF, so they know what time everything is and can remember to come. Would be great. So right now I am so behind on all of this stuff because I ended up on a murder trial jury, and I'm on day 8 of this. No, David, I'm not the defendant. I'm alive. I'm alive. So anyway,
I've been on real good behavior.
as soon as this thing is over, hopefully tomorrow will be the last day, I'm hoping. Then I can organize all the volunteers like I usually do. So you'll be hearing from me sometime this week.